Hey everyone. So in today's video, what we're going to do is go over top 10 stocks to watch for next week. This is going to be a combination this week of stocks that are going to take a longer term move as well as a shorter term move. So usually we stick more shorter term, but I see some secular changes going on here, and three of the names that I think it's worth mentioning. So we're gonna jump right into it. Let's just start. They're all not going to be in alphabetical order. Just to get out there, there's only 10 of them, so we're just going to run right through them. So the first one I want to get into is MicroStrategy. And the symbol on this one is MSTR. And really why I want to focus on this is because you are seeing a bottoming of what's going on in crypto stocks right now. And you are seeing institutions, for whatever reason, we can debate this, but whether or not they should or not, but it's going on. Institutions are buying these kinds of stocks. One of the trades that we saw the other day and that I pointed out was this. In one of the videos that I do daily was, if you look at this level, Fidelity took a stake in them, and we couldn't figure out. I couldn't really understand why they would do that, and that's kind of the question. Is you might not understand why, but the price always tells you, right? So now you can see why they took a stake there, and they've done exceptionally well with that stake already. They're up about over 20% in it, probably closer to 30. So it's very interesting to watch things like that and pay attention to when you see large institutions taking a move. But what that's equated to is we're seeing a pickup over the weekend in Bitcoin and Ethereum. So that's probably going to continue. Now, I don't want to get into the whole crypto thing, but what I'm focused on is price. So if price moves, people are going to buy MSTR. If we go higher, people are going to buy MicroStrategies. It's just the way it is. Now, I overlaid a bunch in here, but I want to point out some things that I think that you should really focus on here. And let me just get right into it. So first and foremost, we broke through this level yesterday at 733.94. Just a caveat disclosure, I have a position in this. So what you're seeing here is you're seeing just follow through. Now, what's interesting about this and why I have this in here is this purple line dictates point of control. Point of control is where you have the most shares traded on any particular bar. Okay, that's what the purple line is. The white line is VWAP, which is the average weight of all this for this time period. Okay, so that's how you look at volume by price, and that's what these two lines, the white line and the purple line, dictate. So point of control really means, is everybody up or is everybody down? I mean, if you think about it that way, well, the majority of people are up. Okay, the majority of people are down. When you think about it that way, it starts to make sense. Like when you're down in something, you're like, ugh, right? And then it starts trending down, and then you try to convince yourself to hold on to it, and this is what happens. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing this base. Now let's get rid of all this and just look. Okay, here's your base. You broke that base. Okay, as soon as you broke that base, there was your sign. This was the same exact sign that you just saw on that Mara trade, right? I just believe that there's more assets here, and this is going to be a much larger name that people are going to trade. But you see the wedge line, and you see how you're breaking out here? There's no reason you're not going to 878. And I think you're going to get to 878 fairly quickly. So to me, this is a trade because I don't really know where, there's a lot going on. They're talking about a bill in the House for infrastructure, picking which cryptocurrencies are going to win and which ones are going to lose. So there's a lot of uncertainty here, to say the least. And I think that really needs to be considered. So, these stocks could be moving up on that, thinking that they're going to just pick Bitcoin and Ethereum. I don't know the answer to why they're really moving, and people are speculating as to the moves. But they are happening. And what's really important about this is from here over, we could really rip. And it should be a very easy move here. I don't see any reason why that should not continue. Now, if you throw in the indicators again, I'm above the 8, the 21, the 50, the 200. And what's happening here? Right? They're all spreading. And what you're looking for is when you see averages like this, you want to see them spread out and get wider and further apart. Right? When they're spread wider and you see them out like that, what does that usually mean? Right? You see how it happened here? Okay? I mean, it's beautiful, right? I mean, it's perfect. So I think that this is going to continue. When you flip over this one other level up here, and I would just look for a higher high, and then it's go time. You have to see how we trade, with if Bitcoin's up on Sunday or not, because it'll affect, or Monday morning, because it'll affect these stocks. But you get into this, there's no volume up here. So you just have complete, utter, right, lack of supply. So that means that this thing could really move. But our first target's 878. The second one, and again, you're going to have to watch how these open. They're bouncing all around this weekend. But so for those that don't want to have a crypto account, and I understand why you don't want to have one other account, you can buy this, which they call it a trust, but it's just going to call it an ETF just to make things simple. Okay, and this trades in tandem with Ethereum. So there were some changes that were made to Ethereum, and you can read about them and figure out if it's something that you want to partake in or not. If I just looked at this as ABC stock, I have to pay attention to this, and I'm going to explain why. Okay, first and foremost, if you get rid of all these indicators, okay, see this W pattern? And then what happens when we get to the top of the W? We break out. Do we have follow through? Yes, we had follow through the next day when we broke out. Okay, so this is telling us a couple things. This is telling us that we're going higher. And to me, it means that we're going at least probably to this line. Okay, I think we're going to get to that 33 level very quickly with this. Now, that's where we were before, and that's where we got stuck. Getting above that, you start filling in the gaps. Now, look at this. Okay, same thing here. Same thing you saw on MicroStrategies, you're seeing here. Look at the volume that's in this section for this ETF, and then look at the volume that's up here. So flipping this level, right, is all you need to see. And you can actually, these are very simple trades, because all you're looking at doing is buying the higher high, get above the higher high on the wick, and then use the low of that day as your stop. That's your initial position. If it breaks, you get out, and no harm, no foul, and you just move on to the next trade. But this is setting up for, in my opinion, a major move. Now, I haven't really talked about this in some time, but the last time that, I was looking at this and we were talking about it, I actually had it in the newsletter, and there's a free copy of the newsletter in the description to get it weekly. But you see this line right here? This was the last time I talked about it and covered it. Okay, and last time we did that, it went right exactly to right around where I thought it would go, exploded up, couldn't hold this 33 level, right? It's so important for you to understand what that opening price represents when these things come out. Okay, that it's pretty significant. And then the next week you saw this, and you can go from there. This is possible to get back up to this 67 level. It's not unrealistic for that to happen. This is really shaping up to be quite a chart. Now, if you look at this on the monthly, right, you can kind of see, here's your downward trend line, you broke it. Here's your evening star pattern for those that have watched that candlestick video, and I'll put that candlestick video at the end. I'd recommend that you watch it if you haven't, because it actually shows you how to use candlesticks to identify patterns, which is extremely helpful if you want to learn how to invest successfully. So look at that, right? Boom, breaks, monthly, gone. First higher high on the month. Now, we've only been open for 4 or 5 trading days. So let's not get all excited and giddy, but it is setting up to break. And if you look at where you're closing, you're setting up to close at the highest point. It's nothing to get back to this level. Nothing for us to get back to here and just start working up that wick with nothing over here. So keep that in mind. And I am spending a little more time today on each stock, solely just trying to give more of an education about indicators and what it takes to be truly successful in doing this. So if this is of interest to you, you probably want to subscribe to this channel and click notifications. We come out with these. I come out with recaps daily at the end of the day, and then I come out with live calls every morning, 8:45 to roughly 9:15. Sometimes we go later. So if you want those, just be notified of them. Anyway, PAC, P-A-C-K, Randpac Holdings Company. Okay, I'm not going to get into the specifics on what they do. Frankly, I find it very boring. It doesn't really matter. What matters is what's going on here. Okay, we just talked about this pattern. I'm just going to point it out again. What's that look like? Looks like a W, right? And there it goes. Okay, so you have that rounding here, and now we're going to break out. You need to clear this 2778 emphatically. So you're going to need to see a break above this line. Now, if you break above this line, and I would just use the high, just use $28 because you're at 27.86. Wait till 28. You hit 828 now. If you close over 28, that's what you're looking for. If you close back by the end of the day and you're back through 27.77, Okay, you don't want to be in the trade. What we're looking for is a breakout. We're not looking for this to like limp out. We're looking for a breakout, right? We're not looking for this to just kind of go and then pop up and then come back down like, like a wet fish. I need it to run, right? So that's what you're looking for with these. If they don't do that, on to the next one. Okay, this is a really short-term trade for me. There is some potential here, but for me looking at this, okay, there's not a whole heck of a lot of meat on the bone, but it should go, and it has the possibility to flip that channel and go to this one, right? So you can kind of see how you can get up here, right, and get up there fairly quickly, a point and a half, and then you just move your stop up, and then you see if it flips. Because if you flip this channel, we know we can go parabolic. And we've seen those parabolic moves, right? We've seen them in BNTX and MRNA. We've talked about those in the past. We've been talking about them ad nauseum. We've done okay with those, actually, right? So let's just keep going. So this is one that we're actually in the newsletter on, and we're in a little early on the newsletter. I believe we're in at 212 from the newsletter, and we're up about 14 points, 5%, 6% on it right now. Well, it depends on how you, with the slippage, you could say you're up more, but let's just say we're up 5, 6% on the trade right now. So this trade's not over, and I just want to point out what they do, and the symbol on this one is IIPR. And some people on their phones are telling me that they can't see this symbol up here in the top left on their mobile. So I'm just going to pop these up every once in a while just to remind myself. So what this company does, and I think it's really important to understand, they go out and find real estate and set up facilities for the medical production of cannabis. Okay, so no matter where you fit on this spectrum of whether you think it's good or bad, that whole business globally is not going away. Okay, it's just not going to go away. Not on the medical front side, it's just not. So there's too many studies that show it now. So I just want you to think about this a little bit. Instead of going out there and trying to pick off the Telrays of the world and who's going to be the biggest producer and all of that, if you go out there and you own like the picks and the shovels, right? During a gold rush, who wins? The guy selling the picks and the axes. Yeah, he might not get the flash of when Telray goes up, but they make a lot of money. And they're the ones that have been around for a long time. This is a very large secular move that's going on here. And I would recommend that you take a look at this because it's interesting. You know, we don't talk about the gold miners. They're not on the New York Stock Exchange. We talk about Wells Fargo. How was Wells Fargo created? Right? Wells Fargo was created during the gold rush. So these companies that spawn out of there are ones that actually facilitate this kind of trend. They're the ones that last, the underlying infrastructure, if you will, kinds of stocks. And frankly, pot stocks don't exist unless these people are putting up places for them to go. Now, you don't need to use them, but it does help to have a company have a complete facility already set up, and you just simply rent and go, and you don't have to deal with it. So that's definitely something to consider. And I would strongly recommend looking at this. Now, this level, and you're seeing this breakout, the point that you're going to really want to watch is this. I'm going to do it on the hourly. I'm going to put this post data in. So really what you're looking for, see this? Okay. Just get one hourly close over that line. Right, 229.40. That is pre-market. I understand it's pre-market. You know, you went up and post-market actually, but I understand you went up and then you came back down. I get it, but here we are, and you see how it's struggling here. See how we can't close above there, right? So this is why it's so important after earnings. And I'll stress this so you guys remember this and girls remember this. After earnings, it's so important that you look at the high and the low of the volatility swings the next day or couple days after, because they do have telling points. And this is a great example of that. So we're getting a little bit of knowledge today. But you see how you can't close above that on the hourly? So what do you want it to do? You want it to close there above the hourly, right? So if you close there above on the hourly, that's your go sign. Now, to me, for the newsletter, I have a $300 target price on this. My target prices are not assessed based upon anything more than technical analysis, and I can change them at will. So depending upon the market. And people know this, especially if you just watched me with BNTX, how I kept moving the stop or the target up. But this is your trend. Here's your cup. Okay, we talked about this a while. We talked about this one a while ago, a couple of weeks ago. I think it was in the top 10. And this one, I had my little diagram on what's probably going to happen to it, and you kind of see what's going on there already. But let's remove that polyline. So I think you can just break and just go. Now, what's this look like? It looks like a cup, and then you could have the handle that comes down, and then it could go, right? So you could have that, right? That is possible, right? So here's your cup, and you broke out of your cup. If it doesn't come back in, it could do this, right? And then do this, and then there's your handle, right? So that can happen. Let me just click off of this. There we go. So that can happen, right? Where you come up and you don't break that 229 level that we were just talking about, and it comes back. But to get back up to the upper trend line, I have a lot of room here, and I don't see any reason why it's going to stop. None. So earnings were phenomenal. So this is one that people will remember that we did very well with early on. And I think it's becoming time to really look at this. And I'm just going to point out why. So this is ZIM, and we've been talking about it for some time. I was concerned about this one because we saw this unmitigated disaster the other day, right, with UPS and how it came in. And ZIM is in the same space, so it concerned me a little bit. But let's just get into that. They basically focus on a different part of the globe. So, you know, it's an Israeli-based company. They're a solid company. It's not the issue. The issue is the pricing. One of the key concerns that we had with this company was the pricing, which was done at $40, right? So let's just put that on the 40 so you can kind of see where that is. And you can kind of see why that was an issue. So let's put it right there. So here you are after that secondary, and you can kind of see why we were struggling with it. Well, what happened this week? And this is a weekly chart. It's right up here, what we're looking at. And here's the symbol, and the symbol's also up here. So what you can see here is a clear breakout above what? Okay, above that 40 line to start. Well, that's good because now we're above the secondary. What does that tell us that we're above the secondary? Well, it tells you that the people that are in the secondary or bought the secondary for long term, they've either sold or they're done selling. Okay, it tells you one of two things. The next thing that we've done that we have not done solidly in a month, you could argue it was done here, but to me, it really wasn't done solidly for the past 4 weeks or month. We have not closed above point of control in the weekly, and we just did that. Now, when you start closing above point of control, and we know that point of control is what? Where the largest amount of shares were traded at any one point, right? That usually means that supply starts what? What does supply do? Supply starts drying up, which means less demand will move the stock. So I think from here, there's no reason now, if we get above this one little spot right here, 43 and a quarter, and I'll look at this in the daily, that we can't get back up to here. Very little reason to think that. You have earnings coming out, I believe, in September, so we have some time. Let me just get rid of this little line right here. But I would be watching this 43 and a quarter level, getting through that, and you can push, and you can start seeing how this starts to go away as you get up there and get into that range. So that's the fifth one that I would look at and put on my radar. And, you know, some people find it helpful to just simply set these up in one of their charting systems and just click through them during the day or at the end of every day, depending upon how active you are. So just a FYI. In regards to you, right? YOU. So this is a newer issue. Just very quickly, you know, they basically they're doing secure IDs. I'm more interested in what the stock is doing than anything else. This is the second highest close that we've had on the stock. Okay, here's this little wedge line. We're breaking the wedge line. We're going to here. Getting over this 60.87, right? You don't even have to wait for this. You can wait for this if you want, right? Because it can always reject there at 61.30 if you want to be super technical, because you close there and open there, which means what? I have a seller there, right? So when you open and close at the same spot, it just means whoever was doing what they were doing at the end of the day, just they're still doing it. You want to make sure that they stop doing it. So you could wait for that 61.31 or just buy it here. And then if it goes up, if I close below this close, which is $59, I don't want to be in it anyway. So either way, I have a stop. Whether or not I want to wait that extra 30 cents, that's entirely up to you. to me, I'm not going to wind up waiting for it. I'll just pull the trigger and go from there. But I like it. And I think you can see volume coming in on this now. I'm not going to do a daily or a weekly rather, because you don't have enough data points. But if we get into this and you just look at this on the hourly, you can actually see how this is actually even tightened up a little bit on the hourly, okay? And now look at what happened when you broke that hourly chart. Boom, ran, right from here. So this is something that you should definitely be paying attention to and definitely be cycling through. But this is setting up, and you're setting up even here, again, for your short-term traders, you're even setting up a little wedge line right here to break out and test up to here. So there's even a little spot there that you could actually execute on. Next is RVLV, and I just want to point this out. Stocks have patterns, and they have personalities, and I say this a lot. People are like, what do you mean? So stocks trade like the people that are buying them, okay? It's very clear. So I'm going to get rid of all these for a moment. Let's get rid of all these segment lines. Okay, so we've gotten rid of all our segment lines. And I just want to point out this pattern. So in order to point out a pattern, I'm just going to have to highlight the events. Okay, so here we are. Here's earnings. What's happened after earnings? Stock came right down. After it came down, what did it do? And everyone thinks the move's over. What happens? Okay, what happens the day after earnings are announced? Usually, insiders get to sell. So you might be seeing some insiders that have been sent with this forever, and they're selling, right, the day after. Because you can't sell before because you have what's called lockup periods. So what you're seeing here is that pattern over again. Boom, breaks down, rallies up, sells down. Right? We're starting to catch on to the pattern. As we're catching on to the pattern, since I'm not the only one looking to identify patterns, the patterns start getting shorter and shorter until they go away. That's what happens with patterns, right? They work until they don't work because everybody's looking at them. So you have to constantly be identifying new patterns is what I'm going for, a new edge all the time. So here you open, you come all the way down to what? Major support, you test it, you bounce up and you close here. Where did you open? Same spot. What did we just talk about? Whoever's doing something on one day, the next day, they if you see it open there, they're continuing to do it. So in the one example we just used, we showed that they were selling, right? In this example, we know that price rejection is a wick, right? Wicks are price rejection, and we're doing the same exact thing in the same exact spot. So what does that tell me? It tells me I have a buyer, right? That guy or girl at the end of this was a buyer. Here is a buyer. So what you need to do is consider that. And we've constantly gap filled every single time after earnings and hit a new high. The earnings were not the issue. The earnings were excellent. So what we're looking for is a jump. Just get a higher high off of this. That's all you're looking for. 65, 60, 86. And again, I know that we're going a little longer on this one because I'm trying to cover more education in it today. 65.88, get over this. You're going to 71. Close below the 50-day, get out of the stock. Simple enough trade. Okay, you could be in this trade for 2 points. All right, and you have the potential to get to 71. Getting through 71, flipping this little shelf here, gets you up to 75. So this has potential, just even as a short-term trade. And then you can stay around for the minutia if you want to. So this was a fan favorite before, and we did okay with it. We actually broke the little wedge, and we broke out, and we ran. But I want to point this out again because we talk about this, and it's really important that you understand what I'm saying. So here's earnings, right? And it's what we would just refer to as just a dumpster fire. I mean, there's not really much more to refer to here. You can see how he came in, right? So let's look at these so you can get this. We form a wedge. And what do? We break out, okay? We form a wedge, and what do? We break out. We form a wedge. What do? We break out. What are we doing? Forming a wedge. What's going to happen, right? It's anticipating that this is going to happen again, that these patterns are going to repeat themselves. That's what you're looking for. For me, this is a very simple trade, and it's one of the reasons why it's on here, because I don't have a lot of risk. See this 39.80 level? You don't buy it until you get above it. See how you can't close? Look at this. See how you can't close above it? You closed once, and then you came up to this line and got slapped back down, right? You're having a heck of a time with that number, aren't you? Closing above this, getting above this wedge line is we're tighter now, gives me an opportunity to push. And where do all these breakouts go? They usually go back to the top. So that could get me to $44, $45. And considering how this has been trading as wonky as it is, I would just use it as a trade. So you're basically looking for a break of the 39.80 level to here. You could say 40, flip that, and you're looking for 44 out of it. And you're not really looking, I'm not looking for more than that on this. I'm just looking at it as a short-term trade. So no, this is a new issue. Day one pharmaceuticals. And let me put the symbol up here for people. So Dawn, as it's referred to, I'm going to use an hourly chart for this one, just so you can see what's going on here. Okay. So this is where you're at on the hourly. Okay. And now we're going to pull this up, and then we're going to drop this down. For those that ask, I use Trendspider for these tutorials. I have several different charting systems. If you have questions about charting systems, just simply comment and I'll respond to them. But I use this one because it's web-based and it's very simple and it's cheap if people want to use it. But so $27 is really where you're at. And you can see what? How we tested here and what happened. We didn't break. Then what did we do again? We tested here. We didn't break. First mouse gets what? We always say this. First mouse gets the trap. Second mouse gets what? The cheese. So just because you don't go the first time doesn't mean you're not going to go the second time, right? So getting and closing above 27 is huge. What I like about this is besides being a new issue, I don't have any baggage up here, right? There's no baggage. There's no nonsense. If I cut from here, let me just take the peak. So I don't even have to take the peak, but I'm going to. See to here, right? So if I just take from the peak to the valley of this move, put on properties, I'm just going to throw a little arrow on here, and we'll leave it yellow. Okay, so this move is what? And from here, right, 27 to here is 10 points. Okay, so you could take that move and extrapolate out very simply that when I break this, I'm going to flip and go up 10 points. So that's kind of why I like this one. This is a very simple, easy trade where this is really your stop. That's your breakout bar, right? And there's your stop. If I close below 26, I don't want to be in this. Get above 27, I want to be in this. So I can make 10 points on a dollar. All day long, I'll do that. All day long, right? I mean, you could literally be batting 25% or, hitting 25% and be making a killing if your risk reward is 10 to 1. So this one is the final one. And, I've been watching this and people have been talking about it. So his moves and what he's doing, you can say what you want about him, but he is an excellent CEO as far as getting shareholder value. And he's definitely a visionary in what's going on here. So I'm not crazy, obviously, about how Twitter's run for a myriad of reasons. When you look at some of the other social media companies and how much money they make. But I do like, and I understand it's a different format, but what he's done with Square is just extremely impressive. So adding these afterpay features and trying to partner and figuring out which way to go with this, it makes so much sense because it's becoming the future. But what I really like about this is getting above this level. So what we really want to see, no matter what this stock is, no matter how great the management is or how great the earnings are, that's what we're focused on, right? Are the earnings there? That's more important. What does the company do? Yeah, it matters, but they're setting up to be first or second in that space. And you could argue that they have a shot at PayPal. I'm not entirely sure of that because they are a lot different, but look at this. If I get above that level in the weekly and I close above that level in the weekly, I can go. Now, you're probably not going to be able to wait for that, right? So there's your absolute utter high, 289.23. So really what you're looking for is get above 289.23 or close above, let me get rid of one of these since it's like that, or close above 283.20. Either one of those could be used as a trigger to enter the trade. But when you're looking at this, right, and all we're doing is focused on what? We're just focused on this section of it, okay? And this is from 200 to 80. So there's 80 points there, okay? See this trend line right here? So let's get rid of these events. Let's bring this down. Okay. So that kind of gives you a clue where this can go. This is a very large secular trend and a very big company that has one mission, if you ever really listen to him speak, it's to replace banks. So I think that this can go, and I think it could do exceptional here. So let's see what happens with it, and we'll go from there. So that's a top 10 for the week. As always, please comment. Let me know which one of these you like the most. I'm always curious. Thank you, and have a great day.